up here on the third chain, all the way down to Rattlesnake Reef, Belding Reef, all this area in here, this whole thing. Ton of shell. Backside of Carlos Bay there, through Cedar Dugout, all the way back around. All this area in here. You can even go into Belding Lake and that area on the other side, back up into here. But the one thing that's been consistent back this is really starting to show up. These fish are showing up on shell. Lots of shell playing into the day's plan of attack, if you will. Talked about it in the past. Always have a plan for your particular day and have another plan B if you so need. But right now you can get up on hard packed sand and shell reefs and shell bars, and you can locate your fish at some point, sometime, somewhere in there in one of these particular areas. Just set yourself up so you can work these particular areas based on what's going on with your wind. Another big thing that's been very consistent, I've talked about it many times in the past, it's consistent for us, your majors and minors. The major overs have been very, very good. The minor settings have been a little bit more difficult, but still somewhat productive. So we're still really focusing on those time frames. Temperature's starting to move on up. Water temp starting to move on up. So something to take in account for when you start your day. If you're going to start it super early, make sure that, if you're going to fish for those trout on that hard packed sand and grass and the shell there, probably about 9, 10 o'clock, that bite's going to really start to die off on you. So just take that in mind whenever you're fishing these types of areas. And that's going to continue to be the summertime pattern as we move forward, as our temperatures begin to rise. As we've had some few high pressure days kind of sliding on top of us, as it's just kind of a traditional thing for the summertime on South Texas. So you get somewhat cool mornings and you get some pretty hot days. So if you're wading a lot, that's good for you because you can stay much cooler that way. If you're fishing from the boat, make sure you got a Benemy top on there or something to kind of shade that off if you're going to fish majority of the day. But all that said, we've been working these reefs, decent amount of bait working on these areas here. They're showing themselves early. So our topwater bite's been pretty good for the most part. We're getting action with that. Some takes, not a tremendous amount of takes, but the ones that are anxious or a little bit gung-ho to go get that, then they're getting rewarded for throwing that topwater bait. It's a lot of fun to watch those fish attack that thing. If you're getting lots of swirls and slaps from it, switch it over to a down south or a knock and tail or a marker 54 and work that thing in just a little bit deeper water. So I'm saying deeper water just based off of what your topwater is. 6 or 7 inches makes a huge difference for some of these fish sometimes. So if you get on the edge of these reefs where you got some drops, you got some edges, you can work all those. You got a little bit deeper water. Early mornings, you want to be up there shallow, knee deep. Try to work some of those areas there and locate you some fish, especially if you got bait working in that area, which is a key. Grass has been another key thing. It's pretty consistent for us wherever we've been. We've been working, hard packed sand shorelines as you come on down, like toward Cedar Flat in that area. All this area here has got nice grass that's on it, and we found fish up and down that. Not in every location, but somewhere up and down that. If you're going to work it for a little bit, you will locate some fish in there. But again, mainly it's been around the majors and minors for us. In between those bite frames, we've had to grind. We've had to really scratch out to get some fish for us. Have to wade through a bunch of little ones too. That's another thing that's been pretty consistent as well. Once you catch 8 or 10 of those that are in that 12 to 15 range, then you'll pull out one that's maybe 17 and a half to 19, somewhere in that area there. They're there. You just have to be patient to do that. So you may have to switch baits a few times to really kind of to key in and narrow it down to exactly what they want flavor-wise, profile-wise. Other thing to take in consideration too, we're in our transition days or our wild card days, if you will, as we're headed toward a new moon. So you get all different kinds of fishing days, which we have experienced already. We've had good, bad, others, average, below average, a little bit of everything. So it's really, the summertime pattern's kicking, and those wild card days are showing itself to be a little bit different each and every day. So make sure you have a game plan and you follow that. Again, the main things we're throwing are down south in both the original burner and the supermodel. Magic Grass primarily and Chicken of the Sea in the super. As far as the original goes, Twisted Tea, Big Papa, White Ice, Bone Diamond has been slicked in there pretty good. It's doing pretty well. The other flavor, of course, in the burner shad's the same as, Big Papa, Twisted Tea, Purple Rain, some of those flavors as well. White Ice has all been good. Just match what your water clarity is to whatever flavor that you want, and then where you kind of are. My thing I like to do is if we're in those majors and minors, just throw that original size or maybe upgrade to the super right now, and then maybe back down to the burner. And the same in the Knock and Tail. You throw that Knock and Tail, the 4-inch, and the Rogue, Heavy Metal, Greenback have all been very productive for us. Watermelon Red is another flavor that has been very good for us and productive, especially for finding and catching redfish in these flats and some of these fronts up there in a little bit shallow water. The Watermelon Red in either the Knock and Tail or the Mirror Lure Little John has been very good as well. Again, throwing 16th ounce jig head. Still haven't moved up to an 1/8 ounce if you so choose to and you want to, especially if you're going to start fishing just a tad bit deeper water in that 3 to 5 foot range, then you may want to put one on. But we're still throwing 16th ounce mostly because we're still staying in that thigh deep to knee deep water. Continue on working these areas. Pay attention to what your winds and your tides are doing. It's all very important, especially this time of year, and what you're really kind of focusing your focus on as far as what your fish are doing and where they're hanging out. Again, majors and minors, always locate your bait, grass lines, and you'll find fish. Down from Allen's, all out on the front here on St. Joe, all the way down to Paul's Mott, all that area there. You got some great grasses pushing in here off these shorelines, hard-packed sand. You've got potholes that are in here. You've got edges. You've got drops. You've got a little bit of scattered shale. You've got back lake mouths that are dumping out of here into the bay system or incoming tides, depending on what we've got, an outgoing or incoming. You've got lots of opportunities out here. There's plenty of fish being caught off this grass line edge. Menhead, and they're showing up all over the place. You've got mullet that are in here. You see jacks that are chasing these menhead and all over the place. So lots of fish activity out here on the front shoreline all the way down. Cooler water, hard-packed sand. The grass is tremendous. And again, the grass is the key thing. No matter what time of year that you're fishing, whether it's summertime, springtime, fall, winter, grass is the consistent thing that you must make sure that you're in and around most of the time. That's just really important. Those fish love to be in and around that, and the bait fish love to be in and around that kind of stuff. They use it for ambush points. The bait fish use it for hiding areas. So it's just really great thing. So the more grass that you can be in and around or fish, you're going to give yourself opportunities. Again, anywhere up and down this, pick you a spot. Look at a 200-300 yard stretch of wading water that you can get into. Hopefully you don't get cut off. That's not been too much of an issue during the weekends. You just got to be a little bit more patient, more people on the water, and just kind of scale it back a little bit. It's not a big deal. Everybody just be a little patient. There's plenty of fishing room out there. We can have a lot of fun no matter what. Down south, burner shad, original size, supermodels, all been pretty good. All out here on the front. Knock and Tail, same thing in the 4-inch and the 2 3/4 inch have been pretty good, especially around our major over time frame. We've had that according to minor settings have been again pretty good for the most part. Top water bait up against the shoreline, especially working some of the mouths and the guts. We've had some fairly good success getting opportunities with those. Again, top water action's a lot of fun, especially early. Now it's going to kind of fade away as that sun begins to get to higher, and that's why this out here on St. Joe really works well, because you got different levels of depths of water. The grass goes way out. So, if you're starting early and you're fishing around knee to thigh deep water early morning, you can hang out there probably till 8-ish, maybe 9 o'clock and still get opportunities, and then you can regress and push out to that thigh to belly deep water and start working that water. And if you get fishing overhead, that sun beaming down, you can probably get it out there a little bit further and probably get into that 3 foot to 5 foot of water throwing it to, not necessarily standing in and casting from. So keep that in mind when you're fishing the St. Joe shoreline, because it gives you lots of opportunities as we head in further into June, and then July is dead ahead of us, and August following that back up, those 3 hottest months that we have. Always good to know that. Again, when in the summertime, you want to fish shallow early and deep late, because that water heats up and cools off faster in the shallows. So that's the one thing that we want, and that's where you may want to consider using an 1/8 ounce jig head or switching to that later in the morning, so you can get just a little bit further cast and get to that bottom just a little bit better, because that's where we've been finding lots of our fish, just off the grass edges, off the top of the grass. Again, plenty of bait that's working up and down the shoreline. You give yourself opportunities here and there, no matter where you want to fish. Just be patient. Again, just what I said in the last video. Be patient with there. You'll find some fish out here. Again, there may be a bunch of little ones in there, and then you come across a pod where you may catch 4 or 5 that are in that 17 to 20 slot with no problem. And then there may be days where that's all you catch is 17 to 20s. But again, just be patient with it. Work it up and down these areas. Pick you a nice line of areas that's got good potholes, good bait work. And again, structuring bait's always key thing, no matter what time of year it is, especially right now. So again, white ice has been good. Purple rain's been good. Big Papa, Twisted Tea, Watermelon Red in multiple different brands, whether it be the down south version, whether it's Little John's, whether it's in the Knock and Tail, any of those in the Watermelon Red has been really good. Magic Grass has been good for us as well. So make sure that you got some or multiple flavors of those and work all that. Again, it's key on what your water clarity is so that you can really work your bait best in these particular areas so these fish can locate and find you. Down here on Swan Lake out on the shoreline here, see this area out here is great hard packed sand, good grass. It's over all this stuff, both inside and out. Of course, you get a little bit more squishiness as you get back into Swan Lake, but your areas out here on the outside of Swan have been very good. The grass that's out there, the amount of bait that's working out there, find some solid fish, been hanging out and off this little bit deeper edge of this grass around the little grass islands that are here to the point, this little cut through that's right here where that little gas well is. Come on around all that area back in here. Again, you got that deep drop that's off of that flat. This is the time of year when you're going to really want to start working these types of areas, whether it be here in Port Bay, where it's in Copano Bay, whether it's Aransas Bay, wherever you're at, wherever you want to fish, up in Mesquite, doesn't matter. When you've got that type of drop or that type of edge, as we head into these hotter months, these are the types of areas that's going to continue to help you with your bite throughout a early morning into a mid to late morning bite frame that you can still locate and find some fish. One of the other things that's really good when you have that kind of drop, so when you're on that flat that's here coming off of Swan, you're thigh deep, maybe knee deep in that area, and you're going to throw out to where it's probably over your head, 4 to 6 foot of water. Those fish like to get off in that because they like to stay cool. So when the water temps are starting to get warmer and warmer from them, they're going to regress into that deeper, cooler water. So that's where, talking earlier, where you may want to switch to an 1/8 ounce jig head later in the morning if you so choose. You can stick with the 1/16 ounce. It's fine. Just kind of see what's happening. See what the fish are telling you what you need to do. If that bait's not getting down there a little bit too or fast enough, then switch to that 1/8 so you can get it there a little bit. Even a 3/16 might be a little too much, but you can still try it and see. Other thing too is the soft dines, soft dine XLs or the mirror dines. Those are really great baits into these types of areas as well because you're working those edges in those drops like that, and you get just a tad bit bigger profile as we're transitioning toward that new moon time frame. So your opportunities should be better as that time frame continues to come on. Again, we're in the wild card days, so have some options in there, what you want to be able to throw or what you can throw. Work all these areas like this, especially up here in Port and around these types of areas where you've got that drop, you've got that cooler water access. So those fish, again, they have somewhere to go, but you still have access to them based on what you're throwing and how you're working these particular areas. Again, Port Bay can set up kind of funny depending on what kind of winds you have, so just plan accordingly when you decide to fish in this area or these areas that are like this. Windage is always a big deal to set you up perfectly so you can work it right. Whether you're casting side winded or even if you cast a little bit into the wind, that's fine. You can do it if you absolutely have to, but it's much better if you can set yourself up to let the wind help you as far as your casting ability and setting you up as far as where you're throwing to. Again, main colors been throwing in the down south is Twisted Tea, Big Papa Pearl, White Ice, Magic Grass have been very good for us, have been very consistent on one of those particular flavors. And other ones, again, the Watermelon Red's been very good. Not quite as good on trout as it has been for redfish. We found redfish up tight in the shorelines. The Watermelon Red in the Little John and in the Knock and Tail has been very good for us. The other flavors in the Knock and Tail have been the Greenbacks, the heavy metal. Rogue, again, a Rogue has been very good since it's come out. It's been very consistent for us as well. And of course, in the Marker 54 jerk shrimp, that's been a very consistent bait, both in the original size and the popcorn size. So that's one of the things we've been noticing when we've caught some trout, that a lot of these things are spitting up little bitty shrimp. So take that in consideration. If you have some of those, tie one on, free line it, piping cork, use it, whatever you like. It's probably going to give you an opportunity that otherwise that you may not get throwing another particular bait. So again, majors and minors always factored into your fishing day. You want every option that you can get and every advantage that you can get as we move into these hotter months, June, July, and August. It's going to be the most difficult 3-month stretch, especially for throwing artificial. So you really got to tack as much stuff in your favor that's good.